On August 14th, 2018, a 200-foot slab of Italian highway dropped out of the sky and crushed 43 people. The steel skeleton holding it up was only 51 years old. The Ponte Morandi in Genoa opened in 1967, a proud modern span of reinforced concrete. Half a century later, in a rainstorm, it folded. Investigators found the cause inside the concrete. The steel cables holding it up had rusted away, losing a fifth of their strength, eaten by salty coastal air. 300 miles south, sitting in the same Mediterranean salt water, is a Roman harbor wall poured under Julius Caesar. It's 2,000 years old. Nobody maintains it. And it hasn't decayed. It has gotten stronger since the day it was poured. That's the puzzle. We have supercomputers, steel mills, and materials science. And we build bridges designed to die in 75 years. The Romans mixed rock and ash by hand and built things that outlast empires. So, what did they know that we forgot? The strange answer is nothing. We know exactly why their concrete wins. We build the failing kind on purpose. Start with what concrete even is. It's artificial rock. You mix a glue, cement, with water and rubble, pour it as sludge, and it hardens into stone. Simple. But stone has a weakness. It's brilliant at being squeezed and terrible at being stretched. Press down on a column of concrete, and it laughs. Try to bend it, and the bottom face, which gets stretched, snaps like a cracker. A concrete beam with nothing else in it would break the moment you put weight in the middle. So, around 150 years ago, engineers solved the stretching problem. They buried steel bars, rebar, inside the concrete before it set. Steel is fantastic at being stretched. Now, the concrete handles the squeezing, the steel handles the stretching, and together they make beams, bridges, and skyscrapers. This one trick built the modern world. Every overpass you've driven under is concrete wrapped around a hidden skeleton of steel. And that skeleton is exactly what dooms it. Steel rusts. When iron meets water and oxygen, it turns to rust. And rust is not the same size as the metal it came from. It swells to 2, 3, even 4 times the volume of the original steel. Picture a steel bar sealed inside stone, slowly puffing up like a sponge. It has nowhere to go, so it pushes outward with enormous force and cracks the concrete apart from the inside. Chunks flake off. Engineers call it spalling, which exposes more steel, which lets in more water, which makes more rust. It's a loop that feeds itself. The thing that gives the structure its strength is a time bomb buried in its core. That's why a modern concrete bridge has a shelf life. In the US, they're designed for 75 to 80 years, and many don't make it. The 2025 report card from America's civil engineers found that more than 45% of US bridges are already past their design life, and over 220,000 need repair. Fighting the rust, patching, resurfacing, replacing crumbling reinforced concrete costs the United States over $20 billion a year, and that bill climbs by $500 million annually. We are running on a treadmill of decay, and the treadmill is speeding up. Back to that Roman seawall doing the opposite. For centuries, people assumed the recipe was lost. Some secret ash, some magic the ancients took to the grave. Wrong. The recipe was never lost. What was missing was the reason it works, and in the last decade, scientists finally caught it in the act. The Romans used no steel at all, 0 rebar. Their concrete didn't need something inside it to stretch, so it had nothing inside it to rot. Instead, they mixed volcanic ash with lime, and, for harbor work, seawater. The first surprise came from a University of Utah team who drilled cores out of 2,000-year-old Roman marine concrete. Inside the ancient mortar, they found a rare mineral growing, a luminous tobermorite. It forms tiny interlocking plates, like a stone weaving new fibers through itself. As seawater seeps into the concrete over centuries, instead of destroying it, the water feeds a slow chemical reaction that grows more of these reinforcing crystals. The ocean, which chews modern bridges to pieces, is the Romans' construction crew, and it works at ordinary sea temperatures, 57 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit, no furnace, salt water, and time. Then, in January 2023, A team from MIT and Harvard, led by Admir Masich, cracked the second half of the mystery. For years, everyone noticed Roman concrete was speckled with little white lumps, bright chunks of lime, called lime clasts. Historians shrugged them off as sloppiness, careless mixing by workers who didn't stir well enough. Masich's team suspected the opposite, that the lumps were the point. Modern recipes gently slake their lime, soak it in water first to tame it. The Romans did something that looks reckless. They mixed the raw, caustic quicklime straight in, dry, letting it react in fierce heat right there in the batch. It's called hot mixing, and it scatters those white lime lumps all through the finished stone. Those lumps are the secret. They're reservoirs of unused calcium waiting inside the concrete like spare parts. Watch what happens when a crack forms. In a modern structure, a crack is the beginning of the end. Water gets in, rust begins, the loop starts. In Roman concrete, a crack tends to travel until it hits one of those white lime lumps. Rainwater or seawater seeps in, dissolves the lump into a calcium-rich liquid, and that liquid flows into the crack and hardens into fresh mineral, gluing the gap shut. The concrete heals its own wounds. The team proved it in the lab. They cracked Roman-style samples, ran water through, and within weeks the cracks had sealed and water stopped flowing. A modern block kept leaking. So, the ancient stuff self-heals, grows stronger in the sea, and needs no steel to rot. And the ultimate flex is still standing in Rome. The Pantheon's dome, poured around 125 AD, remains the largest unreinforced concrete dome on the planet, 142 feet across, holding itself up with no steel and no cracks, nearly 1,300 years later. Walk inside and you're standing under an unsupported ceiling older than most countries. Which brings us to the villain, and it isn't the Romans and it isn't chemistry, it's cost. Modern rebar concrete is cheap, fast, and pourable at massive scale. You can throw up a highway overpass in weeks, and it'll hold traffic for a human lifetime before the rust catches up. Roman-style concrete is slower and fussier, and it doesn't fit the way we build. Huge spans, thin beams, everything leaning on steel to do the stretching. So, we keep pouring the version we know will die, then pay $20 billion a year to fight the dying. We chose short and cheap over long and hard, and we made that choice generation after generation. There's one more bill hiding in this. Making modern cement means baking limestone in kilns at brutal temperatures, and that process pumped out around 1.6 billion tons of CO2 in 2022, roughly 8% of all human emissions. Roman concrete needed no roaring kiln. Its reactive lime, seawater, and patience did the structural work the heat does for us. So the next time you drive under an overpass, remember what's really holding it up. Steel that started rusting the day it was buried, on a countdown to the day it can't. 43 people in Genoa were standing on that countdown when it ran out. The fix has been sitting in the Mediterranean the whole time, getting stronger, not weaker, for 2,000 years. We didn't lose it, we priced it out.